All right.
Okay, we have so many crossover things to start with, Gabriel. My my if I had a Spanish surname, it would be Carrillo. Like I'm
Oh,
right in there, Juan Carrillo. We're like brothers from different cultures.
that's right. And we're both carnivores.
That's right.
Yeah, that's right. So if you guys want to go ahead and introduce yourselves, by all means, go ahead.
My name is Marlena Hebern, and I'm the co-author and co-creator with John of the Eduprotocols. And I've been, oh gosh, I have forever in the classroom. I think I have about 18 years teaching in the classroom, all grades, kindergarten through eighth grade, and then up to 30 years total in education. I just recently retired, which has been really fun because I feel like I have a little more brain bandwidth now to spend on working on Eduprotocol stuff. John,
Well, I only have 25 years, so there's
such a
that.
baby.
Such a baby. And so I've taught grades 4 through 12. So I've taught on both sides of the chasm. Gabriel, what grade level do you teach?
I'm actually an instructional technology coach, but I have experience in fourth grade, sixth grade self-contained, seventh grade in math, fifth grade gifted and talented, and I've also served as an assistant principal for a couple of years as
Oh,
well.
nice. Well, I spent years in K-8 thinking, oh, someday I'll go to the big leagues and go to high school, and I'll have a prepped. I'll be prepped.
Oh,
And I'm gonna tell you right now, K-8 people, stay where you're at, because what what happens when you get to high school? It's like that scene in Billy Madison where he says, "Enjoy it,
yeah.
enjoy it."
I can't wait to
I
get to hike school, as he
Yeah,
said.
high school. Yeah, I love a lot about high school. I love a lot about high school. But if you're in K-8 jonesing for a prep usually is like, oh my god, I need to sit down for a minute because you've got 7 groups of 30 to 50 kids, and it's a lot. And so
Kindergarten's like that, you know.
yeah, kindergarten. There's no downtime. You can't just say color for a minute. It doesn't. It doesn't work like that. So, yeah. So I've done the 912 and I've done the K-8, and I'll tell you my preference is K-8 because in K-8 I can mindscape my team. I've got the same people all day. I can culture shape them. In high school you're like, hey, what's your name again? It's February. Okay, see
Yeah.
you later. So it's really different that way. And I wanted to say also, I love the format of your show because I think good food and good teaching live hand in hand. Besides Edu Protocols, I also have a side thing we do called Edu Meat, where when we barbecue, we tag it with meat. But the other fun story is, my big PLN really got started by accident in about 2009. My friend made me get on Twitter, and a group of my friends and I started during the week we were tweeting about school stuff, but then around Friday night around 4 o'clock, pizza and beer started showing up in our feed,
Oh,
right? And then Korean barbecue, and then, oh, by the way, and so we formed very strong friendships for use during the week around what we were doing on the weekend. And that's why I have a real affinity for what you're doing here with food. I think it's a really great idea. Plus, Marlena made the cyber sandwich, so I mean that's just a thing.
it's you can't escape food no matter what you do. Well, thank you to both of you for joining me in this episode. It's a very special episode. I'm creeping up on that 100 mark, but forget the 100 mark. We're focusing on 96 today,
That's
and
right.
we've got quite a meal. So, John, I know you like to grill and barbecue, as do I as well. Marlena, you said I could get something going with whatever you guys decide. So we actually put it on you, and you chose steak for us, right? So
I,
Yeah.
I've
I don't
got,
know who chose the steak, but
I've got
Well, here's
mm,
mine.
my favorite cut. I don't know how you guys feel, but mine is New York strip. I think it's kind of a good combination of fat to meat. Uh, Sometimes the ribeyes are a little too fatty for my family's preference. I like them, but I'm not going to buy one ribeye and
Yeah,
three New York strips. So I usually
that's
do
weird. Asymmetrical cooking is hard.
yeah, and three. That's a prime number. That gets
it's
weird. It
just
gets
not
awkward.
not neat.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so tell us about your guys' meal, how you prepped it, or what have you.
Okay, John, you go first.
Well, Marlena's is easy. Why don't you why don't you tell us what you did? Her
Well,
plan's really simple.
I've got my little ribeye here. We marinated it in my favorite marinade, which is that Montreal marinade.
Mhm.
Montreal. Oh my gosh, I said that wrong. Montreal. And then I've got this little Carolina barbecue. Oh, and it's so good. But then on the side, I have Maryland's state dish, crab Imperial, which is,
Ooh.
believe it or not, a little crab with mayonnaise and an egg and some other stuff mixed in, and it's just so
Mayonnaise
good.
makes everything imperial, even broccoli.
It does. Like it, but it has to be. It has to be. Oh, the right mayonnaise.
Hellman.
Hellman's mayonnaise. If it is not
Mhm.
Hellman's mayonnaise, it is not made
So
right. Is what I
even though
found.
the best foods is in the same factory, it's the wrong label. Is that what you're
Yeah,
saying?
That's
yeah.
right.
I grew up
That's
on the
right.
West Coast, and it was Best Foods. That's right. Yeah.
Uh huh.
That's right.
What
And
about you?
just
Oh, you got
oh,
some
just
more. I
some
didn't know.
broccoli and rice. That's it. Just the
All right.
rest.
That's a full course meal right there. What about
You
you, John?
bet.
Well, I will tell you, I was classically bad at cooking steak for a long time. And Cameron Moore, big shout out to Cameron Moore. He introduced me to bone-in ribeyes in Palm Springs one time, and I was like, wait a minute, I need to know how to make that at home. And so, to make a very long story short, I was doing I was doing an edu meat class, and so I needed, like all of us, right? I'm doing a class on cooking, and so now I've shot my mouth off, so I need to make my techniques better.
Oh,
And I discovered a technique called the reverse sear. Are you familiar with the reverse sear?
that's really the only way I like to make
I can
steak.
tell
That's
by
what
your
my
body
family does
language.
as well.
So most people cook a steak like this, and I gave Marlena some hints about it, but I'm going to be able to explain it to her. The way that people classically cook a steak is they get the grill super hot and they throw the steak on, and then what they attempt to do is sear it on both sides, right? And then pull it back off. Now, I noticed Marlena mentioned the Montreal steak seasoning. One of the problems with the Montreal steak seasoning is it has pepper in it. And when you put
That
pepper on a
burns.
super hot grill, it actually catches on fire and you don't get the right flavor. So, this is how a reverse sear goes. This is how I do it. I wrap my steak up real tight in foil.
Ooh,
I put it in my oven for like 45 minutes at the lowest setting. So it's wrapped up really tight, keeps all the juices in. 45 minutes on low, which my oven does like 170 is the lowest. I put my thermometer in there because technicians test, they don't guess. I put my thermometer in there till it's about 105. Then I unwrap it and put it on a super hot grill. And here's what's awesome, the middle is cooked perfectly through and the outside's crispy. And when you go straight to sear, what you happens is you get that middle is not quite done. So you're almost treating it like a roast, and it makes it fail safe. So if you've ever looked at those steaks at Costco, they're like 2 inches thick, and you think, oh my god, how do I get that done just right? Reverse sear, it's the answer.
yes.
Okay,
And
now tell me this: Are you medium, medium rare, well done?
I'm a medium rare guy.
as am
Oh
I.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
got to be medium rare.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's got to
and
Once
be.
so
it's about 130.
this allows you to control the medium rareness with like a crazy amount of precision.
Yeah. And what I really enjoy about the reverse sear as well is usually when you cook it the traditional method, when you throw it on the grill or what have you, and then you take it off when you think it's done, you have to let it sit for about 10 minutes or else it dries out when you cut right into it. With the reverse
Hmm.
sear,
Bang, it's good.
it's done as soon as you and I
Hmm.
so let me kind of backtrack a little bit because you got me all excited here, John. Right. So I throw mine in the oven at about 165. I think that's the lowest my oven goes.
Right.
165 for about 45 minutes. And then once it hits,
Yep.
I go about 115. I go about
Okay.
115. And once it hits about 100, I have a cast iron skillet on the
Yeah.
stove ready to go.
Yeah, and you don't have to have a barbecue to reverse sear. You can go to straight to the broiler.
Yep.
You can pan cook it, whatever.
And then, I throw it on there and I get a nice, some nice caramelization on both sides. But I'm going to hit you both and all the listeners. And if you're viewing this on YouTube, I'll hit you with this as well. And then the secret to a better steak, I would say, is don't season your steak.
Don't season it at all.
Season your cutting board.
Hmm.
You put a little bit of olive oil and your
Hmm.
Montreal seasoning or whatever you want, and
So I broke all the rules tonight.
no. And the beauty of it is you can always do
No,
it again tomorrow. You can always do it
you
again.
can get a barbecue IEP. It is all good.
There we go. Yeah. So I
Well,
like to
and I've
season
got
my
one more
cutting.
wrinkle for you, Gabriel.
Go
I
for
would
it.
like to know if you've tried this. I tried it tonight. It didn't quite come out the way I wanted. I read an article in Cooks Illustrated. If you dust your steak with cornstarch, you'll get a better crust. I've never tried that.
I've done it with flour, and I kind of botched it because the flour burned. But I've never done.
Yeah, and then you're on your way to chicken fried steak, and that's not what we were going for.
Yeah. Well, I know that you guys have been digging in, and so have I. But we haven't even touched Eduprotocols, but this conversation is awesome already.
Well, can I transition us though? So check this out.
Yeah.
So I did that teaching class, and I taught the class how to do reverse sear. Now the next meat that we cooked was tri-tip, and guess what? Half of them did. They reverse seared their tri-tip, and I was like,
I've never heard that.
So guess what they did? They slow cooked it until the middle got to be about 110. Then they threw it on the barbecue.
Interesting.
And they're texting me in Google Classroom like, "This is amazing, best tri-tip ever." And I was like, "I didn't tell you to do that." So, guess what I've done in the meantime? I'm now reverse searing brisket, Gabriel.
Oh. Uh-oh.
Now you know what's wrong with brisket for me? 12 hours before 4 o'clock in the afternoon is 4 o'clock in the morning. I don't want to do that.
Yeah,
that's a huge problem. So what I did was wrap up my brisket in the oven in paper, start at 10 or 11 at night at like 190, take it out when I get up in the morning, unwrap it, throw it on the queue, and then smoke that sucker for another 7 hours with apple cider and the whole thing. It's almost foolproof. Like, it's so resilient because when it comes off in the morning, it's already turned into a roast. You could cut it and eat it. I've got 12 hours in the oven. Then I put 6 hours on the smoker.
Interesting. So that just goes to show that there's really more than one method to get your point across.
I know there's any number of teachers in Texas completely freaking out right now.
Oh yeah, they probably unsubscribed already.
But don't judge me till you try it. It's crazy easy, and no 3:30 prep.
Yeah, that's right. And then controlling the fire all night. So I'm glad that you brought this up because it's all about different methods, and you guys have put together what I would call something that really shook things up in education and really made us, and when I say us, I mean me, really made me think of, wow, this is game changing. This is not very difficult. And this is really a structure and a framework for anything that I want to do in my classroom in any subject. So if you are listening or watching and you are not sure about Eduprotocols, I can promise you that you are going to go down a rabbit hole after you listen to this episode. So with that being said, how did you guys meet? Give us a little bit of background. I said meet. I didn't.
Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah, there we go. So how did you guys meet? Give us some
Everybody has to take a shot. Marlena, tell the story because she tells it in the book. It's hilarious.
Oh, I really wanted to hear your version. Okay. Golly gee, now that you said that, I'm wondering, like, am I going to remember what I wrote in the book?
The interview?
And yeah. Well, John and I had met briefly kind of earlier than
her husband.
The interview.
We were film teacher friends.
Yes. And also John had run a workshop one summer at my school district in which I completely avoided him because I thought he was just like too much for me. So it's
the middle school wacko meets the demure kindergarten teacher. Like, no, I don't need whatever you have. I don't want that.
Hey, I was doing after that I was doing podcasts with my students. So that was pretty cool. But, so John was interviewing for a job at my school district and I was on the interview panel. He was going to be my boss. So he comes in to interview with an iPad. And of course, the first thing I'm thinking is, who walks into an interview with an iPad? You've got to be kidding me. Lays it down on the table. And then
maybe I wanted to play Bejeweled.
Never picked it up once the whole interview. He left with the iPad. I'm like, well, what was the point of that? I don't know why he brought that. But during the interview, at one point, we had asked him to list as many things as he could, uses for a pencil, right? That's what it was. I think a pencil. And he starts listing all these things just like that, right? Just as fast as he could, including one that was use it with this app on the iPad, wouldn't you know, to measure the arc of it when you throw it across the room or something for some math thing. Uh, so oh my gosh. So after that, we hired him, and he became my boss, and so that's how we ended up working together and got to know each other after that. What did I leave out, John?
I think you did it just right.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I think you did just right. And what I was going to do some demos with the iPad, but we just never got around to it. So there's your mystery.
There's the
Last
mystery.
bite alert. I'm on my last bite of steak. Is there anything we need to do before I do the last bite, or is that okay?
It's on you, man. Go for it.
Okay.
So
My meeting Marlena memory ties very nicely with what she said, but I'd like to talk about our first day of work together because I said to her, "Hey, tell me what your real job is. Don't
oh
worry
yeah.
about your job description." And she basically said, "I photocopy the assessments for the teachers and then grade them." And I was like,
and that was 50% at
50% of
least
her job.
of my job.
And I was like, "Oh no, oh no, we are not taking a highly skilled educator and making them into a copy maker."
I
So,
spent so much time photocopying.
so we
Wow.
started moving on out. And then the next fun story, Gabriel, is we probably spent a good 4 to 6 months with her telling me everything she didn't like about the way I taught in a friendly, productive way. But she's like, "I don't know about this. I don't know about that." And we had really good like conversations that made me better at explaining where I was coming from.
Well,
So
it
it
was
was
sort of a
really,
game. It was sort of a game I played with myself because
well,
John.
it's kind of like if a Ford person is trying to talk a Chevy person into buying a Ford, right? It's not adversarial, but you're like, "Hey, what about this?"
Well, I think that you sometimes thought that that was all my thinking. But when you would say something, he'd come in and be like, "Okay, what if we gave Duo or language? I don't remember what it was, some app to all of our EL students on an iPod." And so I would think, okay, what are all the things teachers are going to say about why we couldn't do that? And then I would just start saying those things. I would just say, well, what about this? What about this?
Hmm.
How is that going to work? Why would it? And John would come back, with clarifying answers for all of my questions.
So essentially, you were problem finding.
Yes,
Yeah,
always.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a really good skill, and
yeah,
that's
and
something that
Marlena
people don't
ex,
think about at times.
Marlena excels at empathy, so she was trying to process what the teachers might need in anticipation of their needs, and I think that was really good. And like I said, it was good for me because I had to now start externalizing what my beliefs were because up until then most of it had been in my head only.
Hmm.
Got it. Got it. Now you guys have an interesting relationship. You guys met in person, and I have read the books, so I want to give a big shout out to Laura Moore. Laura, if you are listening or watching, she's kind of the one who I think I heard the term Eduprotocols out of her mouth first about a year and a half ago, and I started hearing it more and more. And she actually gave me she accidentally bought 2 copies of each book. There was like an Amazon mix up or something, and she ordered it again. And then months later, the original orders came through and gave me a copy of them to look at. And I couldn't put them down. I really couldn't put them down. And I will honestly say, and I'm not just saying this because I'm trying to toot both of your horns or make myself look great in front of 2 awesome authors and educators, but a lot of what I'm doing right now as a coach is Eduprotocols. I have my line right now. I have I guess you
Hmm.
could call it my tagline is when I get in with teachers and I start talking to them, I tell them, "Hey, how would you like to take your 5 days of planning and turn it into 4?"
Hmm.
And
Or
that gets
20
their
minutes.
attention. Yeah, and that gets
That-
their attention really quickly. So I've been doing a lot
yep.
of your Eduprotocols now. Um, Marlena, John, one of you, if you can, give us the 30-second elevator speech. What are Eduprotocols? If somebody was to close the door in the elevator with you two in there and go to the next floor, so you got 30
I
seconds with them, and they say, "Hey, what
I
are
would
Eduprotocols?"
say my short version is if you know what a Venn diagram is, that's a protocol. But if you add the 4 C's to that and add technology to that, and now you're starting to know what an edu protocol is. And so an edu protocol is based on things like Hattie and Marzano's work. And it's things like Think, Pair, Share. I'm going to give Marlena a shout out. She took the Think, Pair, Share, and by adding Google Slides and collaboration, you now have an activity where every student reads, writes, communicates, talks, and produces a written work, which in a Think, Pair, Share, you end up with just talking. And so, with just a couple of little pivots, and it's really funny, it's a great story. Marlena put the cyber sandwich in the first book, and I read it, and I thought, that's pretty good. And then 5 months later, I was at an event, and I was like, I should probably try some of these new ones. And I did cyber sandwich, and I was like, oh my God, this is for real. And I think it's because we've got enough years in this that we know what a good lesson plan looks like. Um, and so to wrap up the longer than 30-second version, the real beauty of this is you can use them over and over and over again because you just change the content, and you have now lowered the student's cognitive load because they know what the work product looks like. The only thing they're struggling with is what's the new thing. So you could do a cyber sandwich on volcanoes and then go right over and do a cyber sandwich on Elvis Presley and then go right back and do a cyber sandwich on two different books or authors. The work product is the same. So kids aren't processing how do I succeed. Kids are processing how do I explain what I just learned. And that changes everything. So there's Kagan in there, there's Hattie in there, there's UDL. One of my assistant superintendent friends calls it SEL for teachers. I want you to let that sit there for a second. SEL for teachers.
And they need
And
it.
here's why. Here's
Yeah.
why.
It's a hard job.
We stand in front of 30 people and try to trick them into doing stuff they hate. And that is an incredibly heavy psychic load. When you can flip that to who wants to do a thin slide, and the kids are like, I'm right here, bro. That is a totally different vibe when you're working with kids to teach them things they want to experience versus if you guys will do this thing that's going to suck for half an hour, I'll give you points so that you can do something fun for 3 minutes. That is a really not fun economy for the kids. And that's an oversimplification, but I've done that. If you guys would just shut up and do this worksheet, I will trade you for this. And doing that all day is a huge psychic load on teachers and nobody talks about it.
Yeah, that's right.
It's an exhausting, it is. It's an exhausting job.
Yeah, and I think more than
it's
anything,
transactional. It's not relationship based.
Yeah. Right now, it's emotionally exhausting right now. Not necessarily the physically. It's just emotionally draining right now. So big shout out to all you teachers out there.
Most teachers, and this would include me, when they're in their pre-service program, they do not understand that what they're going to be doing for 70 to 80% of their day is trying to gently coerce kids into doing a thing that you would not do yourself.
Yeah.
They do not understand that. Now, when teachers hit a certain level of skill, say 5th year, they now understand what the real transaction is. I think that's why a lot of people drop out of teaching. In their head, they think it's going to be like being a camp counselor. I'm going to be with kids. I'm going to interact with kids. Kids are going to tell me cool stories. I'm going to tell them cool stories. We'll care about each other. We'll have cool experiences. That's not what it is for the first 3 years. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong.
That was beautifully put.
Yeah. And most people don't sign up for coercion. That they're not signing up for that. Imagine having a football team where everybody doesn't want to play football. That's not pretty, bro. But
you have to keep them on the field for 60 minutes.
Oh, and there will be public humiliation with the state test.
Yes.
Right? That is not a fun exchange. That is not, only a few people are able to be that kind of leader that can translate that interaction into a successful human experience. And that's why I think we lose a lot of teachers. Now, if we had an aesthetic that teaching is helping kids discover their strengths by allowing them to create cool things that have divergent openings and endings, and that they can build things and share things and impress each other by telling stories, that's a whole other party. Now we're back to camp counselor.
Marlena, anything you want to add about that?
Well, he just said that so well. So no, I don't have a lot to add to that. I think he's right. I think that teaching is a hard job. It is draining. I think it's physically and mentally draining. I don't know how. Sometimes I wonder how I got through the day and then came home to my kids that were the same age as the ones in the classroom. It's a miracle they turned out, somewhat clear-headed after that. But I think with Eduprotocols, what we're hoping to do is give teachers a tool that can make their life a little bit easier and take away a little bit of that burden for them to help them get through some of that difficulty. And especially right now, for teachers who have kids transitioning in and out of the classroom to work at home in the back of the classroom, if they're quarantined, Eduprotocols is a great solution because kids can do it from anywhere. Kids don't have to be sitting face to face to accomplish their part.
Yeah.
In
And
most
you can say the
cases.
term cyber sandwich or sketch and tell.
And they know what to do.
Fast and Curious or Thin Slide, and they know what they are. It's no longer a question of how do I do this? It's a question of, like you said, John,
How good do I do this? How
content.
cool do I do this?
Yeah,
Watch
exactly.
what I'm going to do with word art. It's a totally different feel.
Absolutely.
And I think successful teachers know that their only way to survive in the classroom is to have really clear routines for their students, right? They know how to come in, they know how to get their journal out, how to write after recess, they know how to get supplies and pass them out in the classroom. And so the Eduprotocols is just an extension of that, right? So we've named them so we can identify them and call them out by name. And we provided the routines so teachers can use them over and over and over, and even from classroom to classroom, right? If you're in 6th grade and you're doing a cyber sandwich and you go to 7th grade and the teacher says cyber sandwich, you should know how to do that because it
I'm
translates,
gone.
right?
Yep.
I'd like to come up with a couple of Eduprotocols with you guys, maybe down the road.
Let's make some right now.
Yeah, like a
well, I'll tell you the way that
burrito or digital taco or something.
Well, and I've done cyber torta and cyber taco in Mexico because I can contextualize it.
All right.
So I'll walk you through a creation process because I did one last spring. Okay.
Okay.
My kids had done this big Egyptian project. I really liked it. We did thin slides in the grapes mode. So we did thin slides for geography, religion, achievements, politics, economics, and society. So we did our grapes. We did thin slides every day. We took notes. We used Epic Books and a little form. We used a Scrum process to move across the daily sprint. So every day on the board, I had their post-it notes up, and it said, I have the assignment. I've read the instructions. I have opened the slides. I have got my notes. I have checked them for spelling. I am ready for a Corippo inspection. I am done. So they removed their little post-its across. We did that. We made a big poster that was really cool where they could choose out of the 10 facts in each category. They could pick their 3 favorite and add an illustration. They would add the thing they had made in, was that SketchUp? Is it not a SketchUp?
AutoDraw?
More. No, they did a 3D project. Oh my gosh, why am I going blank? Anyways, they made any artifact from Egypt in 3D. And
okay.
So they added that to their poster. They made their poster, and they turned them all in. And then I did this right here. I don't want to grade this. I'm not in the mood. I don't want to grade dirty posters this weekend. Excuse me. I wanted to honor their work. I wanted to honor their work. I wanted to give them feedback. That's baked into my DNA. That's what I do, right? Work without feedback is just drudgery. And I said, okay, Corippo, put on your super Corippo hat. How are we going to give them feedback and not wreck my weekend? So I went, okay. So Marlena taught me about gallery walks. I like those a lot. Another person taught me about Great American Race, which is one of the most sophisticated of the protocols. And I like that a lot. And I was like, okay, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to print out all the posters. The kids have never seen them before. They've only seen their own. So I put up the posters around the room in groups of 4. I put the kids in groups of 4. There was a Google form that had 3 Likerts and a plus minus. Something you'd change, something you like. Watch where this is going. Review 4. So 4 for 4, which means every poster is going to get how many reviews? 4. Move to another group of posters, do it again. How many feedbacks does each poster get now? 8. That Google form information all goes into what I call a spreadsheet. I go to poster number 1 and I sort by. That kid's going to get 8 data points. I'm going to go equal sum average. There's the grade. I decide if I'm going to override or accept the grade given by the group. This protocol is called For the People.
By the people.
Yes, For the People grading protocol. Guess how long the whole thing took? 39 minutes. I needed to spend about 20 minutes in the spreadsheet sorting the feedback and emailing it to the kids. Done. That would have normally easily been 3 or 4 afternoons or a weekend.
What
So,
you essentially did is you took the smoked brisket,
yes.
and rather than staying out from 4 in the morning till 6 or 7 in the afternoon the following day,
Yeah.
you hacked it.
I like the Tom Sawyer scenario. Hey, you guys, painting this fun sure is fun. Do you want to paint this? And what was one of my big takeaways, one of my big takeaways was the kid who had the best poster in the class got 9 comments on what he should change. Guess who came over to my desk? Corippo, got a reprint. That was the best one in class, wanted to reprint. What would
Really?
normally happen with the best one is he'd take that A and head home.
Yeah, put it on the fridge at home or
He'd be like,
whatever.
"Look, Mom,
Yeah.
rock the house." He wanted to revise it because they pointed out that in one of his grape lines, he had a black background and he had selected a dark blue font and you could not read it. And he was not happy with himself. He's like, "No, I need to print it again. The people have spoken. That dark blue ain't working."
Mhm.
So he gets out there and prints it. That instinct right there is worth everything. The instinct to revise is
That's
worth
your student agency right there.
everything. Yes.
Right.
And so guess what?
Without teacher telling them, without
Yeah.
teacher
No,
telling.
no, that was natural. So what was cool was 3 weeks later, guess what? We were finishing up our Minecraft Mars project, and I was like, "Ooh, I don't want to grade this either." Oh, that's going to take forever to grade 30 Minecrafts, right? So
Mhm.
what I did was I made another Google form, but this time the reviewer could choose. They had made 9 things on their base. So like their hab, where they live, the
Yeah.
lab, where they work, the uplink, the downlink, the mining. You had pull downs for the 9. You could pick any 3 of the 9 to give feedback on.
Oh, look at that.
Now they were
Interesting.
working in small groups, and there was so imagine Gabriel, you're working with Marlena. Gabriel, I'd like to see your hab.
Okay.
So you navigate over to it, gives her, I'm going to give you that a 7. Okay, Gabriel, I'd like to see your mining operations. You give us a tour. I'm going to give that an 8. Very nice. So they're now having choice in what they give feedback for. I took it up a notch.
Mm.
But once you live in a framework world, it's so easy. Like you just said, once I can reverse sear a tri-tip, then I go, pork
What
chops.
else? What else?
My pork
Exactly.
chops will be the moistest ever. So you can start applying that mindset to tons of things.
Or the Carolina barbecue sauce. I've
Yep.
had it on steak. I've had it on ribs. Maybe I'll put it in my coffee tomorrow. Who knows, right?
Or your chili. There's people that make coffee with butter in it. You would not
Yes.
think of that, but apparently it's a thing. I have tried to recreate this at home. It has not gone well.
Mm.
Uh, it tastes just like coffee with butter
With
in it
butter.
for me,
Yeah.
and it's not working. But the point is, you never know when one of those weird combos is going to work, right? Like, who ever thought of dumping a ton of sea salt on my chocolate chip cookies? But apparently, it's
Oh,
amazing,
it's
right? Like,
amazing.
what? Or caramel and sea salt. Oh, don't mix it in. Just smash it in and let your teeth grind it up. Yes, that works. So that's the same kind of thing we're trying to do with teachers is give them frameworks that work and let them pivot on them.
Yeah.
And then there's smashing and stacking. I'll let Marlena talk about that. That's when it gets really fun.
Well, you got to put a little ghee in that coffee there.
Oh, is that what I'm missing?
I bet that's what you're missing. Um,
You don't just dump a
stacking,
lump of butter in your coffee then. So there's a technique.
stacking and smashing is just the process of taking a sequence, right? So now instead of just an isolated learning activity, we're going to expand that into a series of lessons. So we might be doing 2 cyber sandwiches or 3 in a row, and that would be stacking, right? Smashing,
Club sandwich. A cyber club sandwich. Yeah.
right
Yeah,
there. You
yeah.
Cyber Big Mac.
or we might
Cyber.
do
No, it's really more like cyber buffet now.
right, exactly.
In fact,
So-
I've got a hierarchy for this, Marlene. I haven't told you about yet. Ready?
okay.
T1 protocols using Sunny Magana's T3. So T1 is translational. I'm just automating. T2 is transformational. I'm doing stuff I couldn't do with a textbook and paper. And
Right.
T3 is transcendent, like far out stuff. So check this out. T1 protocols in food are French fries,
Mm. Okay.
plain, plain cheeseburger, right? Not really a meal yet. Um, T2 starts to be stuff like double double in and out double double,
Animal style.
animal style with fries and a Coke. Now I got a combo meal. So same kind of stuff, but I've leveled up now to a meal. Over here I have, I can make a
A
meal
la
out of chicken wings, but chicken
Yeah.
wings aren't a meal, right? Here's chicken wings. Here's spring rolls. You could make a meal out of them. You could gorge on those, but it's not really a meal. Now when you move up the level to combo meal, right? Which would be like if I'm at the Hawaiian barbecue place, I could have just the ribs, or I could have the ribs with the macaroni and salad and the rice. So now I have a meal. Then T3 is an actual food truck. I've got all the stuff. I've got a cash register. I've got social media. And in protocols, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start kids up with some fast and curious for my vocab. We're going to do some cyber sandwich to learn the background. And then we're going to work our way through like that. We might do some game of quotes. We might do I was saying Great American Race, but the other one is Number Mania, another great one Marlena created. And then they're going to culminate with a project that gets graded for the people. So you're moving from items, right, that are yummy to meals to the whole food truck. And I think most teachers are only aiming for a meal. They're not ever aiming for a food truck, if that's a good analogy. Most
Yeah.
teachers don't aim for this is the whole kit and caboodle. Most teachers are aiming for let's just get through week 25 or week 27 or whatever. And I think part of that is because projects look really hard. But think of another good analogy is Legos. Lego just announced a 9,000 piece Titanic ship model, but they're all Legos, baby, right? All those little Legos turn into a bigger thing. And I think protocols are similar. You can stitch all those little pieces together to make a thing that's much larger.
Yeah. That's pretty deep. Talk to us a little bit more about the stacking and smashing, Marlena. You started to get into that
Well,
with
as we move into smashing, we're just creating a sequence using different edge protocols. So maybe we're introducing our lesson with fast and curious, and then we go into a frayer for the vocabulary. And then maybe we have content that we bring into an Iron Chef, but we have one piece we want to go deeper into, so we bring in a cyber sandwich for it. So we
Right.
just create this lesson flow using a series of edge protocols.
wow.
And
And
how
then
that
I've actually used protocols for the assessment. So watch this. Design your own Iron Chef. 5 slides. Here's the topics. You've got the whole internet. Work by yourself. Go. So now we've moved from vocab to concepts to framed and scaffolded things to I don't even know if I told you that, Marlene, but I did that a
yeah.
couple times last year.
Oh yeah.
5 slide Iron Chef. You got the whole thing. So you got domestication, you got stone tools, you got hunter gatherers, you got agrarians, and you got this. That's your final is to do your own Iron Chef. You have 1 hour. You know how to do this. It's open internet. Let's roll. And
And
they
when
knock it out.
And they do. And when teachers are afraid of students when they're collaborating, there's sometimes a fear, oh, they're just copying each other, they're relying too heavy on each other. Well, having them use that tool as an assessment, now you're taking it out, right, of that community, and you're saying, let's see what you can do.
So
Yeah.
just like in a sport, right? You can stop and start the practice all you want as a coach, but at some point you go to play the game. And when it's the game, the other team will not appreciate you stopping in the middle to get it right. Like you don't get to do the extra point again. You get one. And so that is part of like the test of how we're doing in terms of the ability to work independently. I'm just looking at one like right here that popped up on my Twitter. Jamie Halsey at Mrs. Jamie Halsey does crazy cool stuff. Listen to what they did on their first day with Island of the Blue Dolphins. They did a debate and a guild with Sketch and Tell. They used Sketch and Tell to do a guild. And then they did the pre-data gathering for the Number Mania they were going to do the next day. I've never even seen that before, Marlena. So
Yeah.
she split the Number Mania into 2 days. Today, for the Number Mania, your only job was to look through a Wikipedia article about Island of the Blue Dolphins and pull out important facts. Tomorrow, they'll use those facts to do an infographic. So, like, that's one period, Gabriel. Look how rich that is. A
Yeah.
debate, drawing, writing, reading, gathering data, one period. And you know this because you've done protocols. What's the planning like?
It goes away.
Like
Minimal.
5 clicks.
Yeah, it really does go away. And not only that, but the sage on the stage goes away as well. You know, we need to, I think I've mentioned this in a couple of, I don't know that I've mentioned it on an episode, but I talk to, whenever I do professional development and start talking about things like this, one of my big points is teachers, you need to stop going home with your voice all hoarse and your throat hurting. The kids need to be going home tired. Their voices.
How many of us have gone to events where
they're doing the talking and the creation and all that stuff?
How many of us have gone to PD where the speaker says the kids need to be doing the work, not you? And Alan November says, who owns the learning? And then we walk out and go, what are you doing tomorrow? I gotta get some teachers pay teachers. It'll be okay. And so then you're back to explaining what we're doing. That we mentioned it earlier, but that's my favorite thing when teachers notice the same thing I did, which is when kids know what the task is, they quit asking what the task is. They start wanting to talk about the content, and that is so golden. What's really unique is both Marlena and I went back into the classroom at a pretty late stage in our career. I was full-blown 6th grade last year.
Yeah, actually, I went back to 6th grade as well. When I went back, and I had the option of going back into 1st grade or going back into 6th grade. And at the time, the 1st grade didn't have any devices. So I picked 6th grade because I'm like, I got all this stuff. I got to be able to try it. And so that's what I did.
And how's that been going out? How's that been going now that you've been on the other side of it and you've written 2 books and you're now putting your practice, what you've preached and what you've researched and what you've built back into practice. How's that been going?
Well, I'm not in the classroom now. I'm retired now.
Oh, I'm sorry. How did it go, I should say?
So I went back to 6th grade and then I left the classroom again. And I was a technology integration specialist where I coached and worked with teachers on technology. And so just like you said at the beginning, oh my gosh, my meat and potatoes and the butter was Eduprotocols. If I didn't have Eduprotocols, I actually don't know how I would have survived those five or 6 years because already the prep was so intense for that job. But I could have things pre-prepped. I would have Eduprotocols ready to go and I'd walk into a classroom and a teacher would say, what are you going to do today? And I'd say, hey, how about a book of kucha? Here's how we do it. And I think that a lot of times teachers, teachers are creative and teachers like to make stuff. And that's part of our downfall. Teachers love to create templates that are pretty and fill in the blank and lots of over scaffolded in templates.
Which I want to say is totally fine if you want to do that. But if you're doing it because you think they need it, you're wrong.
You're wrong. And most of the time I'd walk into a classroom and I would just say, open a blank slide. Or teacher, share a slide with everybody, a blank slide deck. And we would work off of a blank slide deck. And what I would do is on the board, I would put my criteria. Iron Chef, must have, 3 to 4 points, a quote, a reference to a page number, an image. Your secret ingredient is this. I would just write it on the board and the students would translate that into a blank slide. But one thing I do have to say about blank slides is I want students to be creative. And if an Eduprotocol is just brought down to fill in the blanks, then students have lost the opportunity for the visual media to be creative in that visual space. And I think how they word something, how it looks, like John said, the guy with the poster and he didn't like how the print showed up on the background, that's developing his sense of creativity. Right? He's learning how colors interact. But if the teacher has scaffolded that and it's a fill in the blank, it's a missed opportunity.
Yeah, it is. It's now a very basic bottom of the pyramid activity.
Right.
With no creativity.
That's why, even though
Yeah.
When I'm working on a project, and I think I've done this to Marlena a couple times. If I'm working on a project with somebody and they send me slides that are Arial, I'm like, bro, let's lose the Arial. But with kids, I tell them everything's going to be in Arial, and you're going to get influence points for choosing the font that conveys the tone and theme of your message.
Exactly. Font says so much, right?
And
But
kids
kids
like
have,
it. If you ask the average sixth grader about Comic Sans, they know all about Comic Sans.
right. And our younger students, they're going to blow it. They're not really going to get that yet. As they grow and become more sophisticated, then that begins to make more sense, right? You want a comic, you want to make it feel like a comic, you're going to use that comic font,
Well,
right? You want to be real serious and bold.
This is why Marlena and I are such a power team. I did this same mindset. One day it was after lunch. You guys know what it's like, right? After lunch, a little blown out right now. I'm like, I need some chocolate. I need a little something, something. I'm not feeling it. So I said, ladies and gentlemen, I set up a scrum board. You will form into 4-person teams. When you are in 4-person teams, send your leader to the scrum board to collect all the team members. So I did that thing. Went back. What are we doing? We're going to be doing an iron shaft. Everybody's got one slide. Tell me everything you know about. It was something like NASA. Go to nasaforkids.gov and find 5 facts. I was introducing the idea of NASA to them, right? And so I gave them the instructions for the slides. I may have written it down with an expo marker. I like what you're saying there, Marlena. Like, here's the criteria written, because audible instructions aren't always fair to everybody. Right. And then I go, and they're like, not moving. I go, why aren't you guys moving? They go, where are the slides? And I go, oh, your mom doesn't work here. Make your own slides. And they were like, oh, good. Okay, here we go. And they did just fine. And I would argue that there's a sense of well-being in the idea. Like, it's kind of like, I kind of want to get over dramatic, but it's kind of like the old idea that the samurai builds their own sword. There's a sense of ability that I can make my own framework to express what I learned. There's a sense of SEL there, of empowerment, that, like Marlena said, you're never going to get that from Ace in the crossword. Like, that's not going to make you feel like a better person. That's not going to. My kids could roll into high school and be competitive as 6th graders because they can think, they can summarize, they can create. And that's what we deny them when we do too many worksheets.
Absolutely. Now, what has the reception been like from the people who've purchased the books, who went down those rabbit holes like I did, and now have kind of transformed their teaching and coaching in that? What is your feedback been?
Just like you, I think you're a good representation of what we're hearing from teachers. We either hear, like you just said, I've been using them, I'm successful, I like them, give me more. Or we hear teachers on the side saying, I read the book, but I didn't quite get it yet. I need someone to show me how to do that. So we try to have opportunities where people can join us and see. Once they see 1 or 2 of them, then usually they're like, oh, okay, now it makes sense.
Yeah, and I've got a good add-on for that. If you look at all 3 books, there's 40 official protocols, whatever that means. But, I mean, true story, I can probably only do 12 or 15 myself. There's no need to be able to do all 40 to be proficient. A lot of people are happy with 4 or 5. But going back to the T1, T2, 3, is do know that if all you ever do is fast and curious, you're just living on fries. Like, they're good. But you don't want to live on that. If you can add a little salad to that and some orange juice and start skewing towards a Happy Meal, it's going to round out the experience. And
if you put a little Old Bay on your French fries,
there you go.
Right? Now you're talking.
So I've seen some teachers that say, like, I do protocols, I do fast and curious. No, because if you look in the table of contents, it's not even in the table of contents. It's like a protocol.
Yeah, it's like
really what it is
really
a time compression technique to give you the time to do the other protocols.
Yeah.
But what I've noticed is, Marlena made me think of this. When you've got people that once they do 2 or 3 with kids, they start doing this right here. Oh, I see where this is going. They don't have to do all 50. The other analogy, since we're doing food, and I don't know if I told Marlena this one, but I think almost everybody can remember their first trip into Starbucks by themselves. first trip to to Starbucks by yourself, first thing you're thinking is don't look stupid. These are cool coffee people. Don't look dumb. And then you're looking at the menu and you're going, oh, don't order something dumb.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out what's the cool thing. And then you get to the front of the line and you're like, cup of coffee, small. And then this happens. The barista goes, you mean tall? And you're like, what? Oh yeah, yes. Is tall large because I want small? And they're like, bro, tall is small. And
Yeah.
you go, yes, I would like that. And I even did this the first time. I like a lot of half and half in mine, and they filled that black coffee right to the top and embarrassedly went over to the trash can and dumped some out so I had some more room.
It's like
Now you
liquid
come back,
gold. Yeah.
yeah, but you come back to you come back to Starbucks 4 months later, and you're like, oh, let me have a half calf doppio with coconut milk and sprinkles, and you're like, boom, 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 boom. It's the same with protocols. The first foray is they're really tender, like, oh, I don't want to do this wrong. But when they get the feel, they start customizing it. It's
Yeah.
really fun to watch that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So what's next for you guys? I mean, you guys,
World
this isn't gonna
domination,
stop.
pretty much.
This is not gonna stop. No, like what can you tell us about
Well,
the future of Marlena and
we
John?
have a super secret project that I'm not going to tell you,
Okay.
but
All right.
it's good. We'll tell you off air. But like right now, we're working with a group in Mexico, Brazil, and India
Oh,
to bring
Yep.
protocols to those countries.
do you
I
need
just
help?
Yes, I do. And I just launched an idea. Last year, we did a couple of events called Eduprotocols Worldwide. If you've seen Step Brothers, that's
World.
our logo.
Why?
Yeah, brought to you by Prestige
Yeah.
International, right?
Yeah.
So we did that, and it was really neat. We had like 9 countries in there.
Oh my
Well, now
gosh.
we have legit friends in Brazil producing Eduprotocols books. It's #1 in Brazil
Oh,
education
I
right now.
know exactly who you're talking about.
Yeah,
You're
Carla
talking
and
about
Samara.
Amplifica.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
they're just as
They
good
are
as they look.
awesome.
They're
They
awesome.
are so
Yes.
And then
awesome.
Arturo Achundia is working with us with his company, which is Soluciones EXA in
Okay.
Mexico. And we just met. I'm not going to throw any names yet because we're not official, but we met a group in India. So our next thing, and if you want to jump in, Gabriel, it'd be fun to have
Yes.
you, is
Yes.
Eduprotocols Worldwide coming to you from Canada, Brazil, Mexico, the US, and
Oh,
India,
I'm
which
in.
means I got to hurry up because we have people in India that are Eduprotocols curious, but I haven't really trained them yet. So it's an
Okay.
excuse to get them using it, right? You'll crack up, 10 o'clock at night because of the time differential. I did PD from 10 to 11 one night. I had 180 people in a Nearpod from
Whoa.
India teaching them with kids and teachers in the same session, teaching them protocols. And it was amazing. Like in the chat, the kids are like, "Sir, this is amazing. Sir, this is my best day ever. Sir, I love what you're doing." Because they say "sir" like crazy.
Yeah.
"Sir, you are amazing." Sir. And I'm like, "Yes, I am. Thank you for calling me sir." So I think just continuing to keep this, like, I think if you think of the way things grow, like we're still at the cusp. We're not at grassroots yet, but we're getting really close. We're transitioning from like guerrilla marketing to grassroots. And like literally, wouldn't you agree, Marlena? Like 2 or 3 districts a month between our whole network are like, you know what, we're going to do this. And this is another good moment to mention this. Protocols are not a curriculum.
They
I'm
are
going
a
to say that
framework.
again. They're not a curriculum.
No,
Mhm.
So
in fact, we encourage districts use
keep
your
your curriculum.
curriculum that you have purchased. We're not trying to
There's a whole
replace that.
chapter in the book about how you can use your teacher's edition. The way I explain that quickly is let's get rid of the crappy end of chapter assignments. Let me see if I can impersonate a couple. What color are the boys' shoes in chapter 4? Nobody cares.
Yeah.
Reflect on what you've learned about pre-Columbian Indians. Nobody wants to hear that essay. Like those, do a think, pair, share. Tap your shoulder partner. No results from tapping shoulder partners.
Well, because we
So,
talked about the party on Friday.
right. So what you can do is keep your pacing guide that the district has built, keep your knowledge base of your content.
Yeah.
You just swap out crappy activities for fun activities.
Yeah.
And the easiest way is fast and curious. I guarantee you your textbook has bold words.
There
Put
you
the
go.
bold words
There's your
into
content.
quizzes. That's
Mhm.
step 1. You're
Better
going to save
yet,
yourself an
better
hour or
yet,
two a week. Better yet, steal them on quizzes. They're probably
just
already in.
just search for your book.
Yeah.
It's probably in there.
Usually.
That's
Usually
right.
they're already in.
Yeah. How
That's one of
funny
the other
that you
things I
brought
tell
up.
teachers like crazy. Quit making tests. Your mitosis quiz is no better than the other 31,000 out there, bro.
Mhm.
Save your weekend.
It's the same
Edit.
concept. It's the same
Edit
concept.
other people's. It's not your Second Amendment quiz is not the best ever. Just grab somebody's. It's okay.
So wow, I'm excited to see what comes about with that project that you guys are talking about, and I would love to be a part of it. By all means, let me know. How funny that you brought up Samara and
Yeah.
oh gosh, I
Aren't they
forgot her name.
wonderful?
Carla.
Carla.
Oh, it's
I
a short
forgot, but
last name.
they run that
Yeah.
Amplifica.
Amplifica. Mhm.
Yeah, and I saw you guys on their show on I think it was their Instagram. I think it might have been you,
Yeah,
John.
it was
Or,
their
yeah,
Instagram.
yeah. I saw you guys on the Instagram, and I've been following them for a couple of years, and I thought, wow, that's funny how those two worlds just
Well,
collided. And,
one of the other things is the Victorian model of teaching, which at its simplest is deciding who is worthy of being a manager and who is not. Right? At its simplest, that's the Victorian model. Who can memorize things, toe the party line, and do distasteful work without complaining? You get to go to a 4-year. Everybody that rejects that is going to be just a worker, which in the modern economy means opens a business and makes more money than the kid who went to college.
yep. Yes, it does. Yes, it
So
does.
luckily for us, that's how most of the world does education. And so when we go to Brazil, I'm already an expert on what they don't get because we don't get it in America either. And my same teacher jokes work in Australia and Brazil because the problem is almost identical everywhere. Teachers want to stand in the front and talk. They want you to do a worksheet that is not interesting. And that's the way it goes.
Yeah,
Because
but
that's the way it's always been.
I think there is a growing awareness among some educators and some administrators that just isn't going to meet the needs of students today. And I think that's what's driving, our work in Brazil, and whatnot.
Well, I'm excited to see where this goes. So, I mean, this is worldwide. This is impact here. So, well, how can the
Wait, I got one more detail.
Yeah.
The last time Eduprotocols Worldwide opened up, we had 600 registrations in 6 hours. I
Holy
just
cow!
shut it down the same day because we were only built to have like 600 people. So what's that
Our little
say?
Zoom,
Yeah, on our little Zooms, like we can only handle like 100 people in our Zooms. We can't do
Oh my
1,000.
gosh.
So and then the time before that, we did 800 people in 2 days.
Oh my
So
gosh.
it's really fun to connect Canadians and people in Switzerland, and they're all going like, dude, you're changing my life. Like this is a thing. I get DMs from teachers that literally I've had a teacher DM me these words. I'm gonna paraphrase it as exactly as I can. I did random emoji power paragraph today. Period. I do believe I've been underestimating my students for the last 30 years.
Oh my gosh.
Period.
An awakening.
This changes everything. Period. I will let you know more soon.
Is that awesome?
Misunderstanding the kid's ability to create for 30 years.
Wow.
And this is the kind of stuff
John
that
F.
we're
Kennedy was the president 30 years ago. Was he? No, that was longer than that. I'm old now.
It might have been
Maybe
Richard
Reagan.
Nixon.
Maybe Reagan. But I get those all the time, and teachers are so happy and so thankful because they're like, I'm finally the teacher I wanted to be. Where Kim Vogie loves to tell this story. She's been protocoling for about 3 years now. When she's going to have a sub day, Gabriel, you know what she says to the kids? What protocols do you want to do tomorrow? And the kids like, oh, let's do a cyber sandwich. They literally plan her sub day for her. Can we do a cyber sandwich on the 1849ers? Yeah, sounds good. Hey, I think we need a math rep on fractions. All righty. And they line it up.
That's pretty sweet.
How meta is that?
Yeah, that's over synthesizing on the students' part. That's crazy right there.
Hmm.
Wow. So you guys have covered a lot. We've covered a lot.
We've eaten a lot.
That we've eaten pretty damn well
It was
too.
good.
Yeah, it was good.
Even though I cooked my steak wrong.
No, there is no
No, there's no wrong.
there's no wrong way. It's
There's
just
no wrong way. There's just other ways.
there's other ways, unexplored ways. So how can the people connect with you on social media?
I'm on Twitter at mhebern. So it's MHEBERN. And I'm on Instagram. You can look me up on Instagram under Marlena Hebern. But I just post family stuff there. I don't do any work stuff there.
Got it.
Just share pictures, dog pictures of the kids' dogs, that kind of thing. And I'm on Facebook, but I have to admit, John, because John runs a wonderful Facebook. I can't get into my Facebook. I have to send my driver's license to Facebook to allow them back into my account, and that's why I'm not in there.
I think you might be wrong there.
I'll send you a screenshot because I think I'm right.
I want to see that. I'm not sending my driver's license to those guys.
No.
Yeah, I'm not too thrilled about that.
Start another account. You might want to just move it to Mike Hebern or something.
Yeah. How about you, John? How can the people connect with you on social media?
Jay Corippo on Twitter, at Eduprotocols on Twitter. Pretty easy. Instagram.
That one too.
Instagram's a fun story. My doppelganger camped out Jay Corippo. So I'm JON Corippo on Instagram. So there's a JOHN Corippo. And he took my handle on Insta, which is fun because then I post stuff to him and I'm like, hey, looking good there, John Corippo. I mess with him a little bit. And then on Facebook, just John Corippo. And then the thing Marlena was talking about, we got about 3,000 teachers in a thing called Empowered Adventure. Empowered Adventure on Facebook. 3,000 teachers. And what's really neat about it is Kim Bogie started that. And what's really cool is teachers will post things like, I'm getting ready to do this. Can you guys look at my slides? And like 30 people will say, this looks good. I got one of those. I got here. Let me show you that. People are saying, I want to teach this. How do I start? And people are like literally dogpiling on them. You could do this. You could do this. You could do this. And it's really fun.
That's pretty sweet. So those of you listening or watching, don't worry about trying to write down this information. I'm going to have all their information in the show notes. That way you can just click on the links, be connected with them right away. And Marlena and John, I want to personally thank you for this conversation, for you guys adjusting calendars. I know we had to push back a couple different dates, but we got it done. And not only that, but we got it done with steaks. So thank you so much.
Some of their episodes might be soup or ramen. We had steak. I mean, let's be real.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. I hope you guys, I wish you the best of luck with everything you do. I thank you, and I tip my hat to you for everything you contribute to this educational space with the Eduprotocols. I'm going to probably writing a couple myself, and I'm definitely going to be a part of the worldwide initiative. So I'm all in for that. So thank you very much, guys. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
You bet.